We always love it when we make dessert here in the 207 Kitchen at Main Studios. With us today, Kate Shaffer from Ragged Coast Chocolate in Westbrook. She's also the author of a cookbook called Desserted, which is full of wonderful dessert recipes, and we're making one of them today. Chocolate cake?
Chocolate cake. This is one of the most popular recipes in that cookbook. I've heard about it now for 12 years from readers of Desserted.
All right, let's get started. Where do we begin?
Yeah, so this is an olive oil chocolate cake.
Okay.
So we've got olive oil, eggs, and buttermilk and vanilla.
Okay.
In this bowl, we're just gonna whisk it up.
I am no expert baker, as you know, Kate, but I assume that the olive oil gives a moistness to a cake, correct?
Yes.
Accurate?
It makes it very moist.
Yeah.
Everybody loves that word. Yeah, and it also allows the chocolate flavor to really come through.
Okay.
I think, and using butter, you know, people will swear by butter cakes. I find that it tends to be a little dry, and with chocolate cake, it really cuts the flavor of the chocolate.
Okay, that's a great tip.
Yeah, and then obviously the quality of your ingredients is really important. We use fresh Maine grains flour, and I mention it because we also make a mix with this particular recipe for chocolate cake.
Right.
And the flour is so fresh, it's milled to order when we order it, and it really adds to the flavor of baked goods. And then we also use our Dutch processed cocoa powder in here too, which has high fat content, which also lends to very tender pastries, particularly cake.
Okay.
And a longer shelf life. This cake can sit on your counter for a week and still taste fresh.
Wow.
Yeah. Not that it will. But
That's a good.
I mean, if it does,
on my
I don't know.
counter.
Yeah, it won't sit on my
last
counter
for
either.
maybe 90 minutes.
Yeah. So we've mixed those dry ingredients into the wet ingredients.
Right.
And the last thing I'm going to do here is add a cup of boiling water, or in this case, just boiled water.
Okay. Okay. And that does what?
Well, in this case, since we're not beating our sugar and into our eggs and not dissolving that sugar right away, this helps dissolve the sugar, so you're not going to get a grainy bite. And also it's activating that little bit of baking soda in there, and it's giving it a really nice tender bite as well.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to get my whisk in here. And yes, you could use a stand mixer if you wanted, but I just kind of like the feeling of mixing a cake by hand. So that's nice and mixed.
Okay.
And we're gonna scrape it into 2 9-inch cake pans. You could use 3 if you wanted 3 kind of thinner layers.
Okay.
I use 2. Another tip here is I line my pans with parchment paper.
Yes.
Because why risk it? If you really don't want your cake to stick to your pan, and you don't want flour all over your cake when it comes out of the oven, use parchment paper. It always works. I mean, 100% of the time.
There's no downside, right?
Right, there's no downside. So you have to cut a couple circles of parchment paper. No big deal.
Yeah.
All right. And then the other thing, we're gonna bake this at 350 for about 20 minutes.
Okay.
The recipe is online.
The recipe,
so,
we'll have the recipe, of course.
Yeah.
But the key thing here, is that you've got to know what the temperature is of your oven, right?
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing how I knew that.
Yeah.
It's amazing how I knew that. No, Kate told me that. And the way to check is you
use an ancient oven thermometer.
You use this oven thermometer that was manufactured, it looks like, in 1938. No, use an oven thermometer, and you check your oven every time you use it. That's not what any other person is going to do, but it's important that you've got the right temperature.
It is important, at least that you know what temperature your oven is at. So if it takes longer, you know why it takes longer, because your oven is at the right temperature. But having an oven thermometer, you can adjust so that it is at the right temperature. And the reason why I know my oven is at the right temperature all the time is because this lives in my oven. But yeah, bake it about 20 minutes. Again, the recipe is online.
All right, so after it's been baked,
Yeah.
then what we have is a cake that looks like this. Am I correct? I am
Yes.
correct.
I let the cake cool in the pan and then invert it onto a plate after it's completely cool. And then, you know, you could do a double layer. In this case, I've just taken one layer and put the other layer in the freezer. It freezes great.
Okay.
We're just gonna cut a slice here. Oh, that's a really big slice, so I hope somebody's hungry.
Not a problem.
And I really sometimes love an unfrosted slice of cake
I'm with you.
just a little confectioner's sugar, maybe a little dollop of freshly whipped cream, and I mean, I think that's a really nice, if you want chocolate for dessert and who doesn't, that's a really nice spring dessert.
The recipe is on our website and app. Go to the 207 section of newscentermaine.com. You're going to find Kate Shaffer's recipe for an marvelous looking chocolate cake. As she said, one of the most popular recipes in her cookbook, Deserted. And you'll find more information as well on her business, Ragged Coast Chocolates in Westbrook.